Yellowjackets is almost at the halfway point for season 2 and the mysteries are getting even deeper. Today we're going to dive into some Yellowjackets theories and also some of the things you may have missed in this week's episode 204, Old Wounds. So today we're going to be taking some big swings when it comes to our Yellowjackets theories, as we are almost at the halfway point because there's only 9 episodes in this season of Yellowjackets. I've gone back over the trailers and teasers for season 2 as well and pulled out some of the little clips that we haven't seen yet. So going over episode 204 and all our theories, let's see what all of it means and let's get into it. The first person I wanted to talk about is Lottie, and the mysteries are getting even deeper with her and what's going on with her in both timelines and what's going on in her head. I did find it really interesting that Lottie's psychiatrist wasn't her usual person, and they really highlighted that this was, someone she'd never seen before. I did think that was strange and maybe has to mean something, because why would they do this and kind of waste that little bit of time when it's unnecessary? Because it's not as if we've seen this character before and they couldn't get the actor back or something. It just seemed to be highlighted for no reason. So I'm thinking it has to mean something. Also, the psychiatrist had like a honeycomb thing on her wall, and I just think all of this stuff is like subtle little nods, because every single thing you're seeing on screen is so purposely put there. So I definitely want to put a flag in the psychiatrist, as they said some questionable things to Lottie about her visions, and we do know that there will be at least one more session, because we've seen Lottie talking about bringing the darkness back in that same room. We did also see a little hidden symbol in Lottie's cabin. This isn't too surprising considering she has her followers wear the symbol around their necks, but I did think it was a nice little hidden one. And also we did see Lottie in this episode find the Queen of Hearts with the eyes scratched out. So this made me think of a lot of things, because in season 1 we were told that the cards that they have there have no queens in the deck. Nat said that. And then we have also found out this season that they are using drawing cards to kind of pick people for things. So in the first or second episode, Misty drew, I think it was a 4, and that meant that she had to go and get the water. And then we have seen just other little hints and discussions about the cards. And previously I was thinking that this Queen of Hearts, because it's on the poster for season 2, I was thinking maybe that means who's the Antler Queen, because I was thinking maybe it's something that changes, or every time they have a victim they have a new Antler Queen. And I do also always come back to the fact that we, as in the fans of the show, did choose this moniker. Like the show didn't come up with that name, so it's always made me think, oh, maybe it's something that's changing, because they do put the antlers behind like everybody, like even Ben had them behind him a few weeks ago. But now just everything that's happened this season, and kind of the nail in the coffin, was Lottie's reaction to the Queen of Hearts. She was scared, she was really freaked out. This is a bad thing that she's seeing, and that's why it makes me think that the Queen of Hearts, or the queen being drawn, is actually the opposite. You are the victim, or it's something else equally as bad, because we know there's still bad stuff that they've done that we don't know about. So I do think that that is what that's going to mean. And then we do also see Nat later on, where she's in a heliotrope outfit and she's burning what looks like the Queen of Hearts. So I think that we'll start to learn more and more about what all these cards mean and how they are sort of using this system. One final thing I wanted to point out about Lottie is when she went down the hatch and she ended up in the 90s mall, I did find it interesting that it looked as though Laura Lee was dressed like Alice in Wonderland, certainly the Disney cartoon version anyway. And that got me thinking, Alice in Wonderland, she's in this sort of different place, and Curiouser and Curiouser, there's some other little quotes that tie in to this whole thing. Also, Queen of Hearts, and We also have had mention, I know I've talked about it and I'm sure there's other people speaking about it as well, that they could be going through some sort of poisoning with methane or mercury or anything like that. We know we saw the iron in the water, and there's been other mentions of things like with the birds, and everybody I'm sure knows this, but the Mad Hatters in Alice in Wonderland, they were based on actual people who made hats in real life that got poisoning due to the mercury that they were using to make these hats.
But I don't want to go among mad people.
Oh, you can't help that. Most everyone's mad here.
Of course, that could all be coincidence, but because there was so many things where I was like, that may mean something, I just wanted to point it out just in case. Next up, I wanted to talk about Misty and Walter, and as I've mentioned previously, I am a bit suspicious of Walter for a few things, especially the little Moriarty comment that he made. And I did also just want to quickly mention, I am going to be picking the best theories or the ones I like the most from my comments every video. So make sure to leave your theory down below. One I picked this week was from Alyssa Chamoy 225. And she said, I'm pretty convinced that the reason Walter has access to Adam's personal items and credit card statements is because he's some type of family member. It would also explain his familiar sense of duty to explore Adam's murder rather than just a random interest in crime. I did think this was interesting because there was that little flicker on Walter's face when Misty started talking about him being an addict, and all of that got me thinking, why is Walter so into the Adam Martin case? I mean, there's plenty of other cases. Why this particular one? Of course, it could have just piqued his interest, but I do think that there could be something there, because when they're in the car and Walter says, you know, Misty being a Yellowjacket is the least interesting thing about her, he does kind of mess up the year and he says, oh, that was 30 years ago, which, yes, it could be a little mistake, but Walter seems like someone who is very, very dedicated to what he's doing, and I just don't think he would make an error like that, especially given that he is the same age as Misty. Like, he was in high school when she was in high school. He knows how long it's been for him. So I do just think that was a bit of a weird slip up. The Walter and Misty scenes are honestly some of my favorite at the moment. I really enjoy them. I wish there was more of them. And I loved when they went to the B&B and they checked in both under aliases. Of course, John Lang is Michael Crichton's alias. He actually used that as a pen name when he was in medical school. And Michael Crichton, of course, wrote Jurassic Park, my favorite movie. And he also was an executive producer and the brains behind the brilliant show ER. And Misty's alias was Lady Malawan, and of course that is a pseudonym for Agatha Christie. I'm very curious what's going to happen with Walter. As we know, we're going to get some reunions between the adult Yellowjackets very soon, and I haven't seen Walter in any of those images or video, so I'm wondering what happens considering he's at Lottie's compound with Misty. I'm guessing that we're going to get all of the adult Yellowjackets together by maybe episode 7, because next episode, episode 5, we know we get that Nat and Lottie scene where we've seen at the beginning of all the trailers, look in the light. And then I think episode 6 is when Ty and Van are probably going to show up, because episode 5, we know Misty and Walter are there based on the trailer for this week.
Who the fuck is this?
Walter, I've heard nothing but wonderful things about you.
One pretty big prediction that I'm going to make is that next episode, I think, will be the final episode with Crystal. And I do think this for a number of reasons, mainly because Misty is going to reveal this secret to her. And I think it might be about the flight recorder, the black box, because we saw Misty destroy that. And then it is showing up in the credits. So I think that's probably one of the only big secrets that she could reveal that would be, you know, really affecting everyone. And also there's a lot of scenes where it looks as though they're by that gorge or another hill cliff where Ty found the symbol, and it looks the way it's shot, and there's a lot of snippets from the trailers where Misty looks really upset and it looks as though she's looking down at something, and it just really doesn't seem like Crystal's in the rest of the season. I haven't seen her in any other sort of promotional material, and that just seems likely to me. As I said, I do think Crystal falls or is pushed or something down this gorge, but there is one other scene that's in a trailer that I thought was interesting, and it is to do with the lake. And we saw this week, obviously, them trying to pull the moose out, and then we saw where Nat had her kind of upper torso in the lake and was pulled out. But there is another quick flash in the trailer where someone is fully submerged in the lake, and they're just sort of putting their hands and their fingertips up, and they have like red maroony gloves on with no fingers. And the only person I've seen wear this color gloves is Crystal. I know they all swap around stuff and they do that on purpose, but it seems pretty set that the same people have had the same gloves. Like Nat has black ones, Ty has yellow ones. I'm just kind of curious why someone's in the lake. Like, are they going after the moose? So Crystal may not be around much longer. One other person I do think they are setting up to perish is Akila. We did have her mentioning in the last few episodes her nephew and about taking the SAT. And then we did have her find the little mouse in this episode. And these all just seem to be padding out reasons as to why she may be the one to go, because they've kind of fleshed her out a little bit and showing what she has to lose. And then the mouse seems like a reason that some of the people may turn on her. One thing I found a bit strange in this episode was kind of the placement of the Ben and Paul flashback, flash sideways, what if scene. I did think it was a bit odd because it just really didn't seem to show that much, but this scene could be tied into the book that we've seen Coach Ben reading. So in case you haven't read it, The Magnus is a story of reflection from the perspective of Nicholas Yerf. He goes on to accept a teaching position on a Greek island, and he quickly becomes bored, depressed, disillusioned, and overwhelmed with life. He struggles with loneliness and contemplates unaliving himself. He soon meets another inhabitant of the Greek island he's living on, and this inhabitant is a wealthy Greek recluse called Maurice Conquise. Nicholas is gradually drawn into Maurice's psychological games, his paradoxical views on life, and his mysterious persona. Eventually, Nicholas loses his ability to determine what is real and what is artificial. So is this something that they're setting up for Coach Ben? Does he become unable to determine what is real and what is sort of his It's a Wonderful Life what if version? And is everything going to end up being too much for him? We'll have to wait and see. Next, I want to talk about Shauna. I think that we'll see Shauna go into labor at the end of 205, because from the 205 trailer, we do see Ty and Shauna kind of walking around in the blizzard. I think this is after Shauna has had a fight with Lottie and she's hit her, and maybe Ty has taken her out to kind of calm her down, and we see Shauna saying, I need you to have my back. And then the blizzard comes and we see all the other Yellowjackets shouting for them. So this could be that's when Shauna goes into labor, because Ty and Shauna look like they're really kind of like hanging on to each other. It could be the blizzard too, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. And then in episode 6, we'll see the whole her in labor and everything with the baby. So before we talk about Javi, I just wanted to talk about Ty and Van. It was great to see them together, and I love that reveal. I think Lauren Ambrose is like the perfect casting for Van. There was just some great nods in Van's shop, even its name, While You Were Streaming. We know in season 1 she said she loved the movie While You Were Sleeping, and we also saw Misty watching it with Jessica Roberts. But I absolutely loved all the references they had on the movie posters. They had Rosemary's Baby from maybe Shauna, It's a Wonderful Life from maybe Coach Ben. And then on the little letterboard behind Van, they had movies like Into the Wild, Mean Girls, which kind of a combo of what's going on there, Bound, which is a story of 2 women, and there was just some other little gems scattered around. So I loved all of that. And finally, the big shock of the episode, Javi is alive, and he just appeared out of nowhere, basically. So there's a lot to think about here, because it seems insane that Javi survived in the wilderness alone with no shelter. He's in the same clothes that he was in when he left in Doom's Coming, and he just has a blanket over them. He doesn't really even look sort of weathered the way the others have, like, you know, bright red cheeks, like when they're out in the cold. He is pretty clean and together. He doesn't seem to have suffered or really been put through it, which you would think someone surviving out there would. So again, just curiouser and curiouser. What is going on and where has he been? I do think it was so odd that when he came in, he didn't say anything, he had no reaction, and there has to be something deeper going on there. I do think that the sort of reunion between him and Travis was a little bit half-hearted. I don't know whether that was just the way they were playing it or whether that was intentional, but it just seemed very, oh, cool, you're alive. So what is going on with Javi? I mean, Lottie did spill blood when she was out in the wilderness. Is this what brought Javi to them? Where has he been? I do still think that there is some sort of place out there that is maybe underground. I know I've mentioned mining before and the methane pockets. I do think that's what is sort of heating to the moss to melt the snow, but there definitely is a lot of other possibilities. There are definitely a lot of questions when it comes to Javi. How was he surviving? What was he doing? Where was he? And is he going to be mute, catatonic? Will he be able to communicate where he was? Or did he just poof come out of nowhere? Is it really Javi? Let me know down in the comment section all your theories, and as always, make sure to stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.